98FM. The sound of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks. Weekdays from 10 a.m.
With Adrian Kennedy.
Yesterday on the show, we spoke to Sarah very briefly. If you didn't hear the show yesterday, or maybe if you did, you may have missed this particular call, but she really stuck out in my mind. Sarah is a woman in her late 20s who is still scarred by the bullying she was subjected to while in school. Here's the thing. Sarah went to an all-girls school. She described how girls in her school made her life hell with psychological bullying to the point that she became depressed. And she went on to say that if she has a daughter herself, she will not send her to an all-girls school, claiming that the atmosphere in an all-girls school is toxic and that bullying among girls is the worst kind of bullying. There was a huge response to her comments, needless to say, with many women coming out and agreeing with her comments and sharing their stories with us online about the bullying that they endured in all-girls schools. But I want to find out, this is something we've never actually spoken about before, yet for half of our audience, this is applicable because half of you have gone to an all-girls school. Half of you were educated in an all-girls school. So I want you to pass that information on to us. And I want you to tell us, is it as bad as Sarah is making out to be? Is it fair to say that bullying among girls is far worse than boys, far nastier and far more psychological? Do you agree with Sarah's comments regarding not wanting to send her daughter to an all-girls school? If you've sent your daughter to an all-girls school, or maybe you went to one yourself, I want to hear from you. Are they as toxic as she is making them out to be? I want to give you a very quick recap on what she said yesterday. Have a listen to this very, very closely.
During the year, I was getting severely bullied, pretty much severely. I wasn't going to school. I was staying at home. I was locking myself in my room. My mother was worried sick about me day in, day out. I was getting severely bullied by girls in my year, and to this day, it still kind of sits with me. But the girls in my year were bullying me so badly that obviously I was going to counselling, and the counsellor then went to my year head and my principal of the school saying that she's very depressed. Everyone says the school days are the best days of your life. They were the worst. I never ever have a good thought about my school days.
Jesus, that's awful.
It was an all-girls school, so unfortunately I said to myself, if I ever have kids, we're going into a mix. I just find it so toxic.
There you go. If she has a daughter herself in the future, she won't send her to a girls' school because she says it's toxic. This is nothing new. I've heard this from cousins of mine before, from other relatives, from friends. Obviously, all bullying is toxic. Okay, all bullying is wrong. All bullying is detrimental. But is it not worse among girls? Is it not more psychological? I went to an all-boys school. The bullying consisted of physical bullying. You know, a fella would try and, you know, it was the alpha male thing. He would try and beat you up. You'd have a fight with him. It'll be all over then. Whereas the girl bullying, it's psychological. Sorry, Rachel, by the way, we're trying to call you back if you can answer your phone because we really want to talk to you. 6797981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp your comments to 0877 98 98 98. Grania, how are you? You're on 98FM.
Hiya, how's things?
Grand. Now, you heard Sarah's story. She says if she has a daughter, she's not going to send her to an all-girls school. She says it's a toxic environment. The bullying is rife and it's psychological and it can ruin your life as it did hers.
Yeah. As I set up on Facebook, I've got a 6-year-old at home, and she goes to an all-girls school. Now, at the moment, between junior infants and first class, it is a mixed school, and then when the children go into second class, they get split. Now, at the time when I was enrolling her into school, I was reluctant to go into it because of some of the experience that my friends have had and relatives had said that all-girls school can be toxic. But I went to a mixed school, both primary and secondary, and I still got bullied. But
yeah, no, yes, obviously you can get bullied in any school. Bullying. Yeah. But would you not agree that in girls' schools it's particularly toxic, where girls just gang up on each other and they isolate other girls?
Sometimes it can be, but not necessarily. You know, it can happen in all schools. So whether it's, say, a mixed school and the girls could be doing it to the girls, or the boys could be doing it to the girls, or whatever. But it can happen, and I know there's, like, I'm in my daughter's school, I'm on the volunteer parent group, and they are trying to get down on the actual bullying and anti-bullying and trying to stop it. So whether it is all girls or boys or whatever it is.
I want to go to Rachel. Now, first of all, Rachel, I want to say thanks very much for coming on the air and talking to us. It's a very brave thing to do, to share a story that's as horrific as your story is. Now, without mentioning the school, you went to an all-girls school, is that correct?
Yeah, I went to an all-girls primary school and a secondary school. Now, both were actually very different. The primary school was great, there was no bother. And what I found happened was when I went into secondary, I think it all kind of started first, the image thing, like I think it's normal now, like where you would get stick over kind of the clothes you wore, the bag you had, the hairdo you had, and that was kind of normal. But as it went on, I absolutely hated going to school every day. I hated it. I actually used to get myself into so much trouble so that I would get suspended, so that I would be put on detention, so that I wouldn't have to sit in the room with these girls, that I wouldn't have to be around these people, that I wouldn't have to...
Okay, you deliberately misbehaved so you'd be suspended so you could stay at home.
Yeah.
And what...
And you know, I've never spoken about it up till probably now, actually.
Wow.
I've actually never spoken about it yet. I kind of always, like the people that don't know, for a couple of them I would actually still be in contact with. And I don't think they even realise what they had been doing.
So your story is quite similar to Sarah's story yesterday, in that these people are still in your social circle. I'm going to find out the exact things that they did to you back then. How many years ago was this, Rachel?
Well, of course, I'm 40 now, so
25 years ago,
20
probably.
years ago, yeah. But I would actually still find that from people I still talk to, and from a couple of girls I actually know that still go to the school, not this school in particular, a different girls' school, they would actually be in the mix of getting the same kind of thing. So, I'd like to this day, my relationships with women are very, very difficult. I don't get on with women at all. No, I don't get on with them at all. I do get on with women a lot. I find it very hard to trust them.
That's
very, very hard to get close to them. And
yeah, that's very interesting, because a friend of mine who went to an all-girls school as well and was bullied horrifically has the exact same feeling about other women. Because I remember asking her once, because she has always surrounded herself with men. She doesn't have any female friends. And I always think that's strange when a woman doesn't have female friends. And I asked her one day, I said, Jesus, are you a complete bitch? Why don't you have any female friends? And she said, well, here's the thing. I don't get close to women. I don't trust women. Women have been bad to me in the past. And then she told me the story about when she was in secondary school, what women did to her. And she said some of it was horrific. The psychological bullying, the bullying over her appearance, bullying over the slightest little thing. So tell me, how bad did it get for you? Give me some examples of what these girls did.
What would happen was, it would mainly be like that psychological thing. Do you know what I mean? Of the appearance of not being able to kind of do things that they were able to do, not having the clothes that they had. And I was always a real kind of happy and outgoing person, do you know that way? But whenever I would go into school, I found that I always had to put this mask up. I could never, ever just be myself. Do you know that way? It was like literally like they would... I can't even explain it, to be honest. I'm even getting kind of... My heart is beating as I'm talking about it.
I know, you're grand. I know it's difficult. It's bizarre as well, that the first time you've ever talked about it is on the radio to 98FM in all those years.
Yeah, do you know what it is? Because when I heard that girl yesterday, and I heard you mentioning it again today, and I kind of thought to myself, do you know what? I would hate for someone to send a child there and for that to happen. I would absolutely hate for it to happen.
And the fact that it still affects you, 25... So did they slag you over your appearance?
Oh, everything, everything. Like, even if it was down to... Like, I used to go on the hop, on the mitch, what you call it, like, whatever you call it.
Yes.
I used to go on the mitch and all, do you know what I mean? And I knew I would get caught. But I knew I wouldn't have to go back into school for a few days.
And was it so bad? Were you crying in school? Was it...
No, do you know what? Here's the thing. I would never let them see me cry.
Okay.
Never. I always kind of laughed it off. Do you know that way? I would always kind of make fun of what they were saying and fun of what they were doing. And like, it would come to a stage where I'd go into the classroom and I would literally dread sitting down in the chair. Do you know what I mean? Now, there was a group of girls in my class and they were fantastic. And there was another group and it was like, I absolutely hated it. I can't even describe this psychological abuse. It was just... it was everything. It was down to your hair, down to your shoes.
Was there isolation? Was there isolation where they would completely ignore you and talk about you behind your back?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the isolation would completely ignore them. What they would actually do was, when I would sit there with them, they would talk amongst themselves as if I wasn't there.
Okay, yeah.
And then they would actually be great with me when no one else was there.
And did you ever turn around to them at the time and say, "Listen, you need to stop this"?
No. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know it was bullying then.
Of course you don't. Yeah, you don't know at the time.
And I don't know how to explain it, because I think at the time there wasn't such a big issue around bullying. Do you know that way? It wasn't kind of as well kind of known and talked about and everything else.
Sorry for cutting across. You said you're still friends, or a couple of these girls are still in your social circle.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
have you approached them about this and said?
No, but you know what? Over the years I've thought about it. And a part of me didn't. And I'll tell you the reason why I didn't was because I don't think they even realised what they were doing.
But would you not turn around to them and one of them and say, for instance, her name is Anne. Anne, I want to tell you something. You were a right bitch. You were a wagon back in school. You did horrible things to me. You psychologically damaged me for life, and I just want you to know that.
And you know, that's actually something for me to think about as well, because I probably should do it. Do you know that way? Because as I see them now, like they're different people now to
of course.
Then as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for one of them in particular, I was actually quite good friends with, like, when we were older, like, do you know that way? And she's a completely different person now, do you know that way? And I know even now she wouldn't dream of doing it, do you know that way?
Okay, one final question for you, Rachel.
Kind of anxiety around her.
One final question for you, Rachel. I don't know if you have children yourself. Would you send?
I do, yeah.
Would you send a girl to an all-girls school?
Never, absolutely never. And I have to say, it's a subject that really gets to me with bullying. Like, I've actually openly talked about it with my daughter. Not told her kind of the things. I've just told her, like, you know, I was bullied. I didn't tell anyone, and it made me very sad. And I should have told someone. Just trying to kind of show her that if that happens, like, you need to tell someone. And I have to say, it's just like, even now when I think about it, do you know the way? It's like I actually see how it actually affected a lot of areas in my life. What used to happen in the morning was my mum and dad would be gone to work. So we'd have to leave by, say, 8:30. I would leave and I would get off the bus probably 7 or 8 stops down past where I was meant to get off, just so I would have to go into school late. So I didn't have to spend time with these. That
is horrific. Stay there for a second, please, Rachel, and I really appreciate you talking to us about something that's affected you so badly. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp your comments 087 798 98 98. That's the question we're asking, whether or not you should send your girls to an all-girls school or whether or not it is toxic. Terry, you believe that the bullying in girls' schools isn't as bad as we're making it out to be?
Oh, not at all, not at all. I mean, that this mixed kind of like that, it's kind of immoral in certain ways, and it can lead to a moral carry on. Whereas in an all-girls school, you know, they are mixing. You know, people will play up on this track about bullying. You know, if there's bullying, man up and slap it back.
Really, you think it's that easy?
I think it's just pull yourself together and punch back.
So if a girl like Rachel is being bullied by 6 different girls in the class, you think she should just man up? Man
up, be a girl about it and get on with it.
Have you ever been bullied?
Just whinging and crying like that and going home to mammy, that's gone.
And have you ever been bullied yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow anyone to bully me in any way.
What do you say to that, Rachel?
I would get there before they
get actually, do you know what, Jeremy, I'm absolutely flabbergasted. And I have to say this, Jerry, this is the extent it went to. When I left school and I would come home, I would act out at home and I would react in horrific ways and do horrific things just because I wanted actually someone just to notice what was happening with me, because I could not say it.
But you obviously went to a public school, was it?
Sorry, she obviously went what?
A public school.
It was a nun school is what I went to. A nun school.
You went to, yeah, but you were obviously in one of the lower class areas.
Why, what does that go? Why, you think? Sorry, hang on. You think bullying only takes place in working class schools?
No, I'm detecting from her accent. She's obviously from a lower class area.
What has that got to do? What has that got to do with anything? What has her accent got to do with anything? I don't know if you know this.
That's where to get all whimsical.
Sorry, Terry, bullying happens right across the board. It happens in private schools, it happens in posh schools, it happens in working class schools, it happens across the board.
But in these public schools, they get all whimsical and and this is all attention seeking. Then they go,
So Rachel, you were attention seeking.
But you know what, Terry? I have to say one thing. What I actually did used to do when I come home from school was I would either lash out or I would react or act in a different way to get someone to notice me, to notice what was going on, because I hadn't got the guts to say. I was
exactly what I'm saying. An attention seeking little devil. That's what you were.
Let me finish, Terry. Let me tell you one thing. Where the school was, actually, it wasn't in a working class area or anything like it, okay? That's for starters, okay? And how I speak doesn't define me.
Absolutely not.
Okay? And I will say this, I can stand up for myself now because I've learned, okay? I've went through my own bits and my own stuff, and I've learned to stand up for myself. But when you are young and you are so raw, you are so blooming, vulnerable, do you know what I mean? And you don't know, you haven't been given them coping skills, and you don't know. And the last thing you want to do is send your kids out to fight or to do this or to do that. Do you know what I mean? But when you are surrounded by nothing but girls and you're with them day in, day out, and you have to be because you've no other.
So Terry, had you been? Now I know you're probably the same age. Had you been Rachel's mother back in the day when Rachel was coming home crying and getting herself into trouble so she wouldn't have to go to school, you would have said to her as her mother, Terry, you need to harden up and
tough up, babe. Tough up.
Tough up.
Wow.
Tough up.
I'm glad.
And if necessary, slap back.
Stay there for a second. Connor, you're on 98FM. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Grand. Now we're talking about girls' schools, and obviously you didn't go to an all-girls school, but do you think that when it comes to schooling for girls, a mixed school is much better?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a biological aspect to things in the sense that guys are definitely more dominant and aggressive, and bullying can be much more apparent and easy to deal with in that sense, whereas with the girls, where things are more psychological and on an almost subliminal base, it can be much harder to deal with and confront, and can have much more long-term lasting effects.
I agree with you. I think psychological bullying is a lot worse than physical bullying. Physical bullying, you get the scar, you get the punch in the face or whatever, you move on from it. Psychological bullying, as you can hear from Rachel,
it damages your confidence for your entire life. I have a girlfriend right now, and she went to an all-girls school, and she spent months out of school, and to this day still has anxiety issues due to things that might have happened. So,
and are you trying to say that wouldn't have happened in a mixed school or an all boys school?
Bullying can happen essentially any environment, but at least if you're in a mixed school, you have the opportunity of being around the opposite sex at the same time, and there are boys who might even have that protective instinct in them to stop other girls from bullying if they see it. Or
I agree with you.
More inclusive of the other girls, and it teaches respect for both genders. But you can still get bullied in a mixed school environment. But if you're going to get bullied in a mixed school environment, imagine how bad it's going to be when you're only in a pure girls' school environment. It's going to be much worse.
Stay there for a second, please, Connor. Sarah, it was the girl that was on to us yesterday. You've been listening to the show, Sarah. What do you want to say about this?
I'm absolutely outraged. Outraged by that woman's comments, Terry, whatever her name is.
Terry, yes.
What has what has lower class, middle class, upper class places got to do with how you are bullied? This is psychological bullying that went on in my life that is still affecting me to this day.
Clearly, the fact that you're son, I can hear you're visibly upset by even listening to this again 10 years later. It has absolutely nothing to do with the area. And I say that to you, Terry, it has nothing to do bullying.
Of course it has. Of course it has.
So Terry, excuse me. So someone going to Foxrock School won't get bullied, but someone going to somewhere like Ballyfermot is.
You don't say.
Is that what you're saying?
You don't say how I speak. You say the way I speak.
Oh, get over it. Get over it. The woman's asking you a question. If you can't answer the question, Terry,
necessarily have to go.
Sorry, I want to ask you this question before I cut you off. Do you think that bullying?
Don't think about cutting me off.
Well, I will cut you off. Do you think that bullying is less likely to happen in a fee-paying school?
In a fee-paying school?
In a private school?
Well, it won't, but I mean...
Sorry, Sarah, let me ask you, did you go to a private school or was it a public school? What type of school was it?
I went to a public school.
A public school. Was it in a particularly bad area?
No, it was in a very well-known south side Dublin area, and like, you know, you got everyone there.
Yeah, of course.
For everyone there, and
now Terry said, Sarah. Terry said what a lot of people feel, that you should have just hardened up. Would you explain to her how difficult it is for a 15-year-old girl, which you were, to do that?
15-year-old girl who had all the confidence in her life, was super outgoing up until these girls came up to me and started psychologically bullying me. And like I said, it's with me to this day. I can't look at myself in a mirror without being upset about myself, because it was all about appearance. Also, it was also about my sexuality, all of that kind of stuff.
What was the bullying about your sexuality?
So I am in a same-sex relationship now, but at the time I didn't know who I was,
okay.
And they caught wind of that and started writing horrible things about me on Bebo back in the days when it was bigger than Facebook.
Yeah.
They started sending me abusive text messages. They got all my friends, including boys who were in the boys' school, who was associated with our school as well, got all of them to turn against me. Like, it spread like wildfire, to a point that I couldn't lift my head off a pillow. I couldn't lift my head off the pillow.
They literally knocked the confidence out of you.
Yeah.
And you think it was as easy, Terry, for her to just harden up? You haven't.
I know by the way she's speaking, she's just looking for attention. And
so why would she be looking for attention 20 years?
That was on there to say.
Sorry, why would she be looking for attention 20 years later?
Pardon me?
Why would she be looking for attention 20 years later?
Oh, people like her do that.
Oh, okay. Good luck. I'm done. I can't. I'm sorry, sir. I don't like cutting people off, but I know you're not looking for attention in the slightest. And I know you weren't even coming on the show, but you just happened to be listening, and you got quite upset. I
just couldn't believe that someone like her exists in this world. It's people with her mentality is the reason why there is such a stigma about mental health and things like that. You know, not everyone can just, you know, straighten up and fly right.
No, like, of course they can't.
That's not the way the world works, unfortunately, no matter what she says.
I know you're saying you're shocked that people like that exist. I only saw, obviously people like this exist, and they exist in all ages, Sarah, because there are little girls in school now, 10 and 12 and 13-year-old girls, up to 18-year-old, and they are behaving like, pardon my French, like little bitches. I've seen Snapchat stories posted by parents online of Snapchats that their daughters have gotten from other girls in school, 12 and 13-year-olds, saying, you know, go kill yourself. You were ugly. I saw a Snapchat story where they sent one girl, you were ugly. This poor girl, I think she was 13 years of age, and her brother had died recently. You should join your brother in the grave. Imagine saying something like that to somebody.
I know.
People are just absolutely toxic, and unfortunately these people are always going to exist. You know, it breaks my heart. It genuinely breaks my heart, Sarah, to hear how your life has been turned upside down because of what these girls did to you. And I know you were saying to us yesterday as well that some of them are still in your social circle. I think for you, and I'm not a psychologist, I think, but for your own mental health and for closure from your part, you need to address this, and you need to, I mean, if the girls are listening now, what would you say to them? If any of the girls, now I know you're using a different name, but I'm sure this will get back to some of the girls that bullied you in school. What would you say to them 10 years on?
Well, it's not even what I say to them. Even when I see the one ringleader of it all, sometimes, I hate to admit it, I'm not an aggressive person, but my blood boils to a point that I just feel like putting a mirror in front of her face and almost like trying to get her to see the world through my eyes and what she's put me through. 12 years later.
Do you think she knows?
I think she has. I think she well knows, and I know for a fact, and I hate doing this because it's on a public forum and everything, but I know for a fact that she's still continuing her bullying through other means. I know for a fact, and it's unfortunately, I think she just has never gotten out of that mentality.
I
she's
think
not happy now. I know she's not happy.
No, she couldn't be. Anybody that's that toxic couldn't be happy. Stay there for a second, please, Sarah. 6797981 is her telephone number. Text or WhatsApp your comments to 0877 98 98 98. There's a huge interest in this. Now, Jessica, you're 18 years of age. I've changed your name for obvious reasons. You're in school at the moment. Well, not at the moment, but you are attending school. And I don't want to know the name of the school. How bad is it?
It's just like awful. You can't, like, you wake up in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen during the day. You're going to like get pushed by someone, called names, people stick up their fingers at you. There was like a girl who put stuff on social media about me, and school said they could do nothing about it because it wasn't in school, it was on her own account.
What did she say about you on social media?
Oh, just that she couldn't stand the sound of my voice and I'm so annoying, and just a load of stuff.
And of course, all people joined in, I'm sure, on social media. And
I don't really know. One girl who would be quite nice to me screenshotted it from Snapchat and sent it to me. And I brought it to her year head. And she said she couldn't do anything about it, but she'd have a chat with her. But the photo was taken on the property, like, where you shouldn't be using it from.
And what's happened in school to you?
There's been a bunch of different groups of girls. There was one girl I used to be friends with when younger, and she'd be 2 years below me. And every time she walked past in the hall, she'd call me a bunch of names, or she'd push me, or stick her fist at me, or do anything. And if I asked back, I'd actually get in trouble because I'm older than her, so I can't do anything.
And it got to the point where you just hated going in. As you said, you didn't know when you woke up in the morning, you didn't know what was going to happen that day.
Yeah, especially at the start of this year, because last year, a group of girls I'd been friends with for a couple of years, they all stopped talking to me right before the summer. So about a year ago, they stopped talking. And when I started sixth year, any like social kind of days, like sports day, events like that, I didn't go in because I had no one to be with. And I dropped maths class because I couldn't be in the same class as them, because they'd all just gossip about me and throw dirty looks and all. So I moved from a higher class to an ordinary.
It's very, very sad to hear that story. And you do know, you don't need me to tell you this, that they are the toxic people here. You're not the bad person here. I mean...
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's very hard to even tell you to rise above it, because it's impossible sometimes to rise above it. But the good news is it won't be long before these people are out of your life. Hopefully they're out of your life forever. And, you know, you'll get on with your life. Hopefully you'll be able to put this stuff behind you. They will always be those type of people. I firmly believe that if you're that way at the start of your life. And I've come across bullies of all ages. I've worked with bullies. I've worked with people in their 40s and 30s who are bullies, and you can tell that they were probably bullies in school as well. So let them get on with their pathetic life, and you be the better person for it. I wish you all the best, Jessica. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye bye. Another example of, and you know, I'm not saying I'm not having a dig at girls' schools, but you know, all the evidence has been there the last half an hour. If you were a parent whose child, you have a daughter and you're putting her names down for schools, I don't know, maybe should you think twice about it now? I don't know. I've two more calls, including one call that I'm going to go to in a second, that the bullying was so bad on her that she had to do something really, really drastic. I can't believe this, what I'm actually reading on the screen. Let me go to Jean first, because Jean, you went to a boarding school. Again, no names, no scandal. But Terry was arguing earlier on that this only happens in schools in working class areas, which is bull. It's absolutely bull.
Absolute bull is right. That woman hasn't a clue. She must have actually been a bully herself. She must have been a bullier, because I went to private school, I went to boarding school, and it was a full 7 day a week boarding school.
Of course, yeah, but with boarding school you can't even go home from the bullies. Yeah.
No. And certainly when I went to boarding school, we only got home at Halloween, Christmas, Easter and summer. So it was 24 hours a day. And I know we didn't have social media, but it was just as horrific because you never got away from it. It was a small school. It was all girls. It was run by nuns. The nuns didn't give a toss. It was relentless. It was just relentless. I was good at sport, and it was my only outlet, because God knows what I would have done if I didn't have sport.
What did they do to you?
You'd be excluded. You wouldn't be included in anything. People wouldn't want to sit beside you. Like, we all, like, obviously we're in a main refectory, and each year was with each other, and you were assigned your table at the beginning of the year, and people would want to be moved. They'd make it very obvious they didn't want to sit with you. They'd make fun maybe of family coming up, of how you dressed. Like, we all had a uniform, but then, like, for the weekends we wore our own gear. There would be constant exclusion. Like, you'd go into a room and there'd be silence. You'd go into study hall, there'd be silence.
Yeah, so pure psychological bullying.
Oh, complete. Oh, yeah, no, like, completely. It was never physical. Like, it never, like, and girls are quite clever, you know. They will psychologically bully.
Well, devious is the word I'd use, yeah.
Yeah, and it was horrific. And, like, for her to turn around and be so naive, and it's just, like, stupid. Makes no difference of your background, where you go to school, and particularly girls. Like, to this day, like, I left school, I remember even after my junior cert, nobody came up to me at the end of my junior cert to say, how did the exams go? And my sister picked up on it because she was collecting me from school. And she was horrified that nobody from my year came near me to say, have a nice summer, how do your exams go? It was full on, and you never got away from it. And my parents sacrificed a lot to send us to school, so I was very conscious I wasn't going to make.
Yeah, thinking that, spending the money and sending you to
because of my sport, and they just felt it would just be better for me, just academically and all of that. And I remember leaving school the day I did my leaving cert, and I said to myself, if I ever see these girls again, it will be actually a day too soon. And I have never seen those girls again.
Well, that's good that they're completely out of your life. I'm sorry for cutting across you, Jean. Thank you for talking to us. I want to go to Sarah very briefly. Sarah, you were bullied so badly in school over a part of your appearance that you ended up having to do what?
Well, it was more, I'm just saying, I'm disgusted at that woman as well earlier. I'm glad you cut her off.
Absolutely,
it's just the thing of the way, I don't think really people get the way it affects young girls' mental health, as in the body image. If you're constantly told that you're ugly and Pinocchio, or if you look a bit, some people have different noses, some people have different ears, some people have we all have different bodies.
Yeah.
And when it's constantly zoned in on. And
they latched on about your nose, I believe, and constantly made comments.
It latches on about it, and eventually your body image is so low that you can't interact. And there's a thing called social phobia as well that can happen with
of course,
with young girls as well, where you just withdraw. And I would have withdrawn totally from social events, and no, I'm not going. I'd be asked to everything because I'd loads of friends and everything, but you just withdraw.
And you ended up having to get a nose job.
I ended up. I was actually about 28 when I got that done, because I realised that it's all this from years ago that has affected me. That I need to do something to break it, just break it. And I just felt that because I'd had so many comments that it became a body thing then.
Yeah, you became so self-conscious because of what they said to you. I mean, thank you for your call, Sarah. If only bullies knew, and I'm sure they do know. They're not stupid. And to say they don't know what they're doing because they're younger is complete bull. They do know. We're after hearing in the last half an hour, we're after hearing absolutely horrific stories from different people. We heard from a girl who was basically in tears on the line over the bullying that she sustained 15 years ago. We heard from another woman 25 years later. The first time she ever spoke about the bullying that took place was to us, live on the radio, to strangers and to thousands of people who didn't know her. And then a girl there having to change her appearance, having to go and get a reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery to her nose because of the comments that girls made about her in school. And I don't want to just lash out on girls' schools. I'm not saying that it happens in every girls' school, but certainly from my experience, from talking to family members I have, cousins I have, daughters of friends, it just seems that bullying goes on everywhere. Okay, it goes on in working class, upper class areas, it goes on in all types of schools. But it seems to me that when it comes to girls, it's just so psychologically damaging that it can affect someone for the rest of their life. Maybe you should sit down, if you have young girls, maybe you should sit down with them after this topic today. Maybe you should sit down and ask them if they are being bullied, or even more importantly, ask them, are they the bullies? Because the chances are there are people listening right now who have daughters who are these, pardon my French, because that's what they are, little bitches that are setting out to ruin a girl's confidence and a girl's life. It's 98FM's Dublin Talks.
98FM. The sound of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks. Weekdays from 10 a.m.
With